perfection. I know perfect's not for real.
At this time, every couple of years, I go through this crisis where I wonder about vegans. This year, I'm noticing this line, I know perfect's not for real. I never noticed this before. Everyone agrees Neil Peart is smart, and he understands this. But there's nothing perfect in politics, especially politics. But there's no such thing as perfection. And there's a lot of vegans out there that don't vote, and they use as an excuse that politicians and political parties are not perfect, not good enough for their high standards. And you got vegans saying they don't want veganism to be politicized. Well, yeah, that would have been good. It's already been politicized by the anti-vegans, and you're letting them control the narrative. And I'm sure vegans have noticed some irony already. The word perfect has been used against vegans. They talk about this a lot, about how people make an excuse not to go vegan. They just put a spotlight on vegans and how they're not perfect. Like, oh, what about the clothes you wear and the shoes? What about avocados? Nothing is perfect. You know this. Perfection is a concept that human beings made up in their heads. And you got these vegans out there. They are dropping the ball. I've been saying this for many years. But at this point, I'm done being nice. And I'm thinking, I'm expanding my thoughts even more right now. Over the years, I've noticed a lot of vegans are so anti-government in politics that they don't even vote. You're the exact kind of person that should be voting. Then there's Freely. She actually tells other vegans not to vote. Way to go, Freely. See, I am really level-headed and sensible. If you watch Freely, you can tell she's got a big anti-politics, anti-government mindset. I was down on the government around the time she was born, but I have evolved in my thinking. Yeah, there's problems with the government, but it's not because government is bad, and you shouldn't be thinking that way anyway. The fact is we need a government, so why don't we try to make it a better one? I have made it clear, and it would be clear to anyone if they paid attention to politics, that there's a super clear choice. Never been more clear, especially for vegans. But see, they just point out the fact that, well, the Democratic Party's not vegan, so why vote for them? But the other party that could get into power again is clearly anti-vegan. Going back to the Democrats, those people are basically decent. And the other choice Americans have is Trump, who has awakened a large group of people who hold a lot of negative beliefs. There's a certain type of mentality to the MAGA Trump supporters.
The more difficult are, the Fallacies, these people, they're so sick and they're so evil. They want to do things like no more cows.
I've been pointing out for years, they are the same people. When you find Trump supporters, they're almost always likely to have the same mindset as anti-vegans. And Trump has given their voices power. And they put Trump in office and did all these bad things that set back the vegan movement. While vegans are making recipe videos, or watching recipe videos, and thinking they're making a difference. While they're eating vegan and they're feeling good about themselves, Trump was in office loosening restrictions on factory farms and things like that. During the pandemic, he forced meat processing plants to open. The fact that he was focused on that industry. Oh, and by the way, big news the other day. Trump finally said the word vegan. Never heard it before. And I'm going to be making a video on that soon. You probably won't be able to find this in a search. Yeah, because the only things out there that would be labeled with those search terms would be people who are vegans putting that up, like I'm going to do in a couple days. But it's like I'm the only one, and maybe Red Pill Vegan and Lifting Vegan Logic. We're like the only ones who cover politics. But the two of them, I just checked out the two of them the other day. They've hardly been making videos. They kind of quit a few months back.
Not do any more questions. Let's just listen to music. Who the hell wants to hear questions?
When Trump raised the subject, he responded by asking, "Do you mean Bismarck's generals?" Kelly went on, quote, "I mean, I knew he didn't know who Bismarck was or about the Franco-Prussian War. I said, do you mean the Kaiser's generals? Surely you can't mean Hitler's generals." And he said, yeah, Hitler's generals.
Adam Shifty Schiff, who's a total sleazebag, is going to become a senator. But I call him the enemy from within. And it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
Look, Trump speaks in hyperbole. This is nothing new. He's not talking about using the military to attack people who disagree with him politically or anything like that.
He is literally saying that! He is literally saying... If you rob a store, you can fully expect to be shot. And we're not going to have a socialist president, especially any female. The motherfucker, listen to that. He took showers with the other pros. They came out of there, they said, oh my God. You got Department of Education, Department of Education. You got half the buildings in Department of Education. I never saw. You don't need any of them.
Americans need to wake up and stop being crazy. Donald Trump is not the answer. He was not the answer when he was the president, and he's not the answer after he sent a mob to the Capitol to stop the certification of the person who won the election because Americans voted for him. He tried to take away my vote. That's un-American. He's a traitor. And if the legal system were better, he would be in prison now and not even able to run for president. He didn't fix health care. He didn't build the wall. Immigration was still a problem when he was president. You're being lied to about all of this stuff. All you have in support of Trump is the fact that prices are higher now. But Biden did not cause inflation. That means you have nothing. So I, Gary Carburetor, 29-year vegan, 56-year MGTOW, men's rights activist, officially endorse Kamala Harris for president. And it's not just to keep Donald Trump out of the presidency. She actually seems really good. Since she started running for president, I haven't heard anything bad from her, except for one thing. It's all been really good. She seems to understand Americans' problems and shows that she actually cares. Where Trump, he's not a caring person. He's said many times about not caring about things. It's the most clear thing there's ever been in the world that he's an uncaring person. He only got into politics as something to do in his rich boredom. This is what happens with rich people. And also his ego. And his hate of Obama, who just happens to be black. Yeah, vegans want this perfect. They need to come down to reality. You got to be ready to make a deal. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but something could happen with this unhinged person. You're already lucky you live in a society where you have the freedom to not only be vegan, but to promote it. Are you ready to risk all of that just to make some kind of stand? I've heard from these people. Their argument is really weak. And it's getting late here, 2024 now. The vegan movement's been going on for many decades. Young people don't have much perspective on time. They just focus on what's happened during their lifetime. They see that veganism's been trending for a while, and they think it's just a matter of time before the whole world goes vegan. Well, that's probably what vegans thought in the 60s and 70s when it was trending then. When some kind of good change happens, there's always a segment of people who think it's not a good change. You're always going to have this. And when we make progress that you can see in society, then there's a blowback. You have the counter. That was the last Rush song yesterday. And you got those people who say, well, I'm going to eat twice as much meat now to cancel out each vegan. Those people vote more than vegans. And voting does make a difference because those politicians make the laws. There's been vegans to actually vote for. We don't have any vegans this election that I know of. But the Democratic Party does veganish things. And so that is something. It's not perfect. But, I thought we might get closer.
I thought we might get closer.
YouTubers are always pushing for people to subscribe. A lot of people haven't been seeing my uploads, and it finally got to a point where I said, man, I need to look into this further. But it turns out subscribing simply isn't enough anymore. You can miss a ton of new content if you don't have your notifications set accordingly.
I guess that sums it up. But come back every day for a new video. I've got a big one for vegans. Guess who is the most veganish president ever? Well, hopefully that answer is going to change in 2 months.